My name is Bill Davis. I'm the chair of the Public Policy Committee here at the Chamber, and I want to greet all of you. Thank you for coming. The Chamber is really pleased to sponsor the third house of the second short session of the current legislature. Our third house is third house because, after all, the first house is the Senate and the second house is the House of Representatives. And this is the house where we get to interact with our representatives in the state legislature. Our format is, as most of you know, going to remain pretty much the same. I mean, well, you don't know that it's going to remain the same. You know what it was. And it will remain the same. And that is that we'll ask, first of all, each of our legislators to make some introductory comments. I'm going to ask you to stand up and talk into the microphone because Nick is recording that, if that's okay with you. And otherwise he can't get the audio. And then the floor will be open for questions. I would ask you please to be recognized by me first before you ask your question. That way we can do it in some sort of a fairly orderly fashion. And I will remember, or if I don't, somebody will remind me, I'm sure, so that you will get an opportunity to ask your question and get a response. So we'll begin this morning. I don't know who wants to. Oh, the first house goes first. You notice how the power is controlled over here in the second house. Thank you, Carlin Yoder.
Well, the second house is becoming more and more annoying when they play these tricks like they play down at the State House. But, and also, take a good look at Wes. You know, I mean, Wes is always the guy who tells me he dresses down and reaches out to the people, and then shows up in a nice suit and tie and makes us all look bad. Anyway, it's really nice to have the third houses start up again. This is something I always look forward to. It certainly helps me when we go back to the State House to hear from you guys what's important to you, and kind of gives me some perspective. This year we are off and running. We're in our second week into the session, and it has been, from my perspective at least, a very, very busy start. Last year at this point, I had no idea what I was doing. I was floating around the State House, still trying to find the bathrooms and all that good stuff. And this year, it just has a completely different feel. I'm expected by my caucus and by the Senate to know what I'm doing and to carry some stuff for them and to be a more important part of it. So it feels good to have that responsibility, but also there's a lot of work that goes with it. This year I'm carrying, I think it's 9 bills. Some of which will not get heard, I would assume, but some that will. And so I'm excited about that. I have an ATV bill that will allow bigger ATVs onto state parks. The law was written in the 70s when they still only had little three-wheelers and so on. And so with the new types of ATVs that are out there, we're trying to loosen up the guidelines a little bit to allow those on the state lands. Some other bills I'm carrying, some mobile home bills. We're trying to loosen up some credit around here. One idea that we developed is a tax credit for manufactured housing to allow more sales in this area and more production, which I think would be beneficial not only to this area but to the state as a whole. That's going to be a tough sell for my caucus, for my leadership, because the fiscal on it shows that it would cost the state money through the tax credit, but what they don't take into account is that unemployment would go down and sales tax would come into the state of Indiana through these sales and so on. So I've got my argument cut out for me. I'm not at all confident I'm going to win that argument this year, but we're going to keep trying. I've been working with different officials on an ephedrine bill that's I thought was very non-controversial. I thought it was a slam dunk. As I found out, very few bills are a slam dunk and non-controversial, so this thing kind of blew up on me. And so I have meetings scheduled very early next week to try and get it ironed out. But basically, it would prevent the sale of ephedrine-related drugs at the point of contact, the point of sale, instead of having it tracked after the sale and then having to go arrest people. And this came out of a case in southern Indiana where a grandma was taking care of her grandkids, and apparently all her grandkids got sick basically at the same time, and she went and bought a lot of Sudafed or something like that had this fed stuff in it, and went way over the limit. Of course, you and I have no idea what that limit is, or at least I don't. And she ended up being arrested, had her mugshot in the paper, and all she's doing is trying to help her grandkids out. So obviously there's a need for reform there. And my bright idea was to stop it at the point of sale. And so we'll see how that works out. The state police had their own ideas that differed from mine. So we're trying to work out a compromise and figure out something. But, we have a huge meth problem here in northern Indiana and in southern Indiana as well. And so I'm working with some of the legislators down there to try and come up with a solution that works. But clearly, in my opinion, maybe Jeff and a few others here can disagree with me or emphasize that maybe there is a problem. But I think there's a big problem, and something needs to happen. So that's an important bill for me. And then generally what we're working on in the legislature right now in the Senate, these are the 8 major issues that we will be dealing with or already are dealing with. Alcohol sales, ethics reform, gaming, local government reform is back from last year, however much more abbreviated and I think probably less painful for all of us. Property tax caps, redistricting, teacher licensing, and unemployment insurance reform. And I will not sit here and talk about each issue because I'd take all the time, so I will at this point let it go at that and allow you guys to dictate which of those topics interest you, and we can talk about those. But at this point, I will turn it over to the second house and let them talk.